Hello and welcome to Dean Park Station. This is the November 2015 update. As you can see here, the station's looking pretty deserted. I've moved the trains away just now while I do some airbrushing and whatnot, and some weathering. And I also had to move them away because I had this area covered up for a few days as a result of a bird strike in the attic. For some bizarre reason, I had a bird trap between the tiles and this silver foil. It got in one of the eaves, and it was a starling, and it managed to get its way up the top, which has now been sealed, and into the attic space. And could I catch it? No. It certainly flew around a few times, and it's since either managed to get out another corner of the house or perished. But I had to place in lockdown, basically, covered up, and I avoided too many bird strikes on the layout. Certainly, obviously, with card, you don't want, wet birds droppings going on them. Although I did get one on the platform, a very, shall we say, for use of a better word, a watery one, and it dabbed off quite the thing because I'd sprayed them in sprayed the platforms in the matte varnish, or certainly the edgings where the bird struck, just inches away from my HST. So yeah, I managed to clean that up without any lasting incident. But yeah, it's been a bit of an eventful month. That held up progress quite a bit while I hunted down the starling, but it eluded me. So I hope it's safe somewhere out in southern climes by now, because it's far too cold up here in Scotland this week for it to survive too long. So yeah, you never know what's going to hold up your progress, eh? Anyway, hope you enjoy the video. It's just kind of a quick update of what I've been doing. I apologise in advance. There's no running in this video, and I gave you a long running session last month, so I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for the feedback on that. So I'm just going to kind of show up the progress that I've been doing up the west end of the layout. Okay, the major job that I've been doing this month is ballasting the track at the west end of the layout, and also starting to weather the track. I've ballasted it in the same method as I usually do, medium grey blend, Woodland Scenics ballast, with the traditional watered down PVA with a drop of Fey liquid through a syringe, and obviously leaving it to dry for 3 or 4 days just to harden up. And before I did that, I put in the cable trunking at the one side of the tracks. It runs to the tunnel there, and it'll follow all the way around, and I've had to make allowances for the signal there, and all the way around it kind of branches and disappears through the hole there, and continue along the back and into the tunnel. And the same at this side. I'm just starting just now. I've just got to fill in the ballast there. I've stopped it where there'll be dummy point motors, and that's where the cable trunking would go, and along there, and it'll continue all the way along eventually. It cost me a fortune in cable trunking, but it's one of these little things that you need to put down to get true authenticity. I've even, before I ballast, I put in the orange cables, or the pipes that feed the cables through, and it's important to do that before you ballast and glue, because you'll never get them properly in under the tracks unless you start to chip away ballast and whatnot. So it's easier to do it before you glue the ballast down. The weathering that I've been doing this weekend, I've taken quite a few hours to do all these lines here right the way round. I do my weathering at quite close quarters with the airbrush. By that I mean, I go in quite close with the paint, and I go back and forth maybe 4 or 5 times onto the side of each track. So it does take quite a while, but it ensures proper coverage of the track, so none of the metals kind of shining through the kind of goldy coloured track that you get at Pico. And then I go along the sides of the sleepers to kind of dirty that up, and do the same in the central. So that's just been done using Rail Match enamel sleeper grime. I use the enamels over the acrylics. I just find they come out the airbrush a lot better, and yeah, I've just been using those, and it serves me well. So they've just been done just now. The rail heads haven't been cleaned yet. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to kind of dull down. It's a bit browny in the middle, so I'm going to take the rail match, and this is roof dirt, and I just give it a light spray in between the tracks with that, just to kind of tone it down. It's the same that I used, if I nip across to the raised section here. It's the same method that I used here. As you can see on the, suppose on the right hand rail there, kind of blacky tinge in the middle, just with oil, you know, and general build of dirt. And it does give a nice, you know, it works well, I should say, with the sleeper grime. So that's what I'll be doing just after this clip, and then start to put the signals back in place. I just put these signals, I put them on a 2mm bit of grey board, painted in weathered concrete, Phoenix precision paints, and you know, that seals them as well. It makes them semi-water resistant, and that allows me to then, you know, get in with the PVA without the cardboard disintegrating. Finally, before I go away and do the roof dirt, I've got the points wired up underneath so that you know, that the blades are always live. So I'm not relying on a connection here between the point blades and the rail, but I just like to put a little bit of masking tape there anyway, just to stop the paint getting in there, and it makes you know, it does give another contact just in case there's, you know, other electrical issues somewhere else in the point, so it relies on less on one thing, but it's kind of got a backup with the connection here. And I'll keep these on until I finish painting and just whip them off. I've also ballasted here that will be covered, the block, or where I've painted it grey, that's the kind of cut off for the tunnel at this section, so you'll not see, you know, most of this, but I like to ballast into a tunnel and weather into a tunnel so it doesn't just stop at the tunnel mouth, and gives a more realistic effect. And I'll be doing that at the same time as I do the rest. What you'll notice from my last video, or last updates, is there's no longer a turnout here, and there's no longer a bit of rail going to a turnout here, which would go on the incline. I've kind of had a little brainwave. I thought, you know, if trains are coming from the station this way, they no longer need to branch off there to get up the incline. They can go along here, branch off into the fiddle yard, come out here and go straight up the incline there. So it allows me to start the incline quicker on a straight and don't start it on a curve, because some of the trains don't like curved inclines. It's not a good thing for a model train. The other incline at the other end can take up to a 6 or 7 coach, getting local haul no bother, but when you put the HST up, it does slip right at the very top. So I don't know if I'm going to use these for this incline. I might try and work it out using my old you know, sine, cos and tan for the angles of the uprights, and use ply, but I don't know yet. I might have a slightly gentler incline than I do at the other end, because this is predominantly the up incline, if you like, but the other one can be used for up and down as well. I mean, it's the way I've set the layout up, you know, the layout along the very end there at the back scene. They both can be used for up and down, but you know, I'm wanting the incline to finish around here, then join the main lines and then branch off into the fiddle yard, sorry, the TMD. The bit of wood here is missing just now. I had to take it up to do the ballasting. That's why I've not made any more progress on the TMD. It's because I had to get this bit done first before fixing the top section down, so it's kind of, you know, it's kind of logistics of the thing. I've had to do that before I do the rest of the TMD, and then across here there'll be a tracks going across here, so that'll be kind of tunnelled in or under the bridge, and then as it goes around the corner and comes round and comes round and comes round and joins onto there. I've been buying myself a couple of more items for the TMD, and these are both Bachmann Scenecraft items. We've got the fuel storage here, which is quite a sizable, substantial item, quite well detailed actually, with the kind of gravel in the bottom there, all the pipe work and the valves and whatnot. And there's also additional bits to add on to here, etc., for, you know, putting the pipe and bits and pieces there. So that was just newly in stock, so I'd had that on pre-order for some time, so it arrived. So that's I don't know if it's going to sit there. I'm going to have some yard offices here, so this might get shut along a little bit, and you know, some maybe bits and pieces lying about there, yard dirt and yard bits and pieces. Also, I've got this other single fuel storage tank. It's a good item, again walled, to allow any spills to stay contained. It's got the kind of ladder to access the top, which is quite handy. So I don't know if that'll stay there either, but it's been placed there just now and it looks quite good. And all I have to get now, I think the last item I really need to buy is the Scenecraft local wash, which is just in stock at you know, the model centre and Hattons and whatnot, and that'll go here as the trains come out the single yard servicing, and they'll go into the wash. And the fuel depot, I've decided to move it up to here, so it'll service that line and this line, which comes from the other servicing shed. So yeah, it gives it more flexibility. I had originally put it here, but the track's actually spaced far too far apart for that. So I worked it in that it would go just in front of the camera there, right in the middle. So it'll sit in here. It's been worked out space wise. And there'll be bits and pieces going in as well, you know, little huts and bothies and things like that the workmen would store things in and use. And I've also got this little storage, fuel storage or oil storage unit here, and I might put another little tiny fueling pump in there, a single fueling pump. So it's all kind of, you know, it's all starting to take shape. I'm just waiting on bits and pieces coming in, and I'm working on a solution for the inspection pit lighting, etc. I've got an idea for that. So the problem is with some lighting, if you buy lighting kits, they're so bright, LEDs on the self-adhesive strips, it looks like you know, it's whiter than a nuclear blast. So I don't want it to look too bright when I've lit the pits, so I'm going for very small LEDs, and I'm going to work it in that way. So hopefully before Christmas comes, you know yourself, Christmas seems to come round far too quickly, and it's time for getting things ready and spending with the family, so progress isn't always as good as we would maybe hope, but I'm trying to work on this area here. I'll put that area back down and I'll show you what I intend to do, and that'll kind of complete the track lane for the TMD. I've had questions on how I lay my flex track on my layout. I use Pico Code 100 flex track with wooden sleeper, but you do get the concrete sleeper ones as well. Try to avoid, where possible, you know, sharp curves. One, they don't look very realistic, and two, some locals don't like sharper curves, and you get more overhang with the coaches as they go around a sharper curve, and it looks less prototypical, and you have to tend to space your tracks out a bit more. The smoother the curve, you can keep them tighter together, and it looks, you know, a whole lot more realistic. If I'm laying a curve, like such as these ones here, I'll try and make it so that just the start of the curve is a join, so it can limit too many joins on the curve. Obviously this is almost 2 meters in length, so there is a join here, and you really want to avoid kinks in the track where the track joins, because obviously the trains won't run very well, and it looks rubbish. So I use these track set of templates. You've got the straight section here, you've got an 18-inch one, you've got a 21-inch, 24, 30, 36, 42 and 60. Very rarely have I actually used that one. Even the 42 inches pushing it, but I tend to go for the 36 and the 30-inch curves, and if I want a wee bit tighter, I'll go down to the 24, and there is occasions I've gone to 21, but I would try and avoid, where possible, 18-inch curves, because they are a bit tight, and some locals do state that they don't like anything less than a second radius. So I just kind of stick with these, you know, these kind of core 4, if you like, along with the straight section. It's pretty easy to use. They just go in between the tracks, and it will obviously hold it in place. A straight section is easy to use with one hand. And then these gaps here are where you put the pins. Now in flex track there is no pins, holes in the sleepers. So I use the Pico Streamline pins. SL14 is the code, and just holding them in my fingers with a small cross peen hammer, I start them off, and then I finish them off with the blunt end of the hammer to push them through. Other ways of doing it is taking a small 0.4, 0.5 mil drill bit in a pin vise and drilling small holes in there, and then fitting the pins in that way. If you are laying track for the first time, I would stock up on the amount of pins and the packets of pins you do buy. You do tend to go through quite a few. They tend to bend. I'm at about a 25% bend rate. One in every four will bend going through the sleepers. If you drill holes in sleepers, it will help matters, but they are quite thin, because you don't want massive big pin heads sticking out. Now, if you can see there, what I'll tend to do where I've got a join, I'll come in a sleeper and put one, and then come in another sleeper and put on the other part and put another one. That again holds it in place and reduces the amount of kinks that you might get. Another little tip that I do, actually have to kind of do, is remove on the first sleeper where the fish plates go in. Remove the chair of the sleeper and the chair. You just cut it off with a knife. You'll see there's none on these two here compared to the other ones, and that allows the fish plate to slide into place. Alternatively, you could cut those two sleepers off altogether and then just slide sleepers in once you've got the track in position and you're all pinned down. But I just tend to do that way, and it's worked well for me, but it's not the only way to do it. So yeah, you get them pretty much any model shop. I got these from Rails of Sheffield a while back when I first started the layout, and I hadn't used flex track before, and they're vital for nice smooth curves. You can also change them as you go through. For example, on a start of a curve, I might start with 36 inch and then tighten it a wee bit to a 30 inch, and then as it comes out the curve, go back to the 36. So the curve is gentle and flowing, as you can see from the curves that I've got here. These are 36 inch curves, and they just flow nicely around in a kind of prototypical manner. There are occasions, obviously, you've got to get tighter due to space, and if you've got something like a tunnel, and you need a tighter turn, you can go down to the 21 and the 24 inch curves. I hope that's cleared up the question I was asked. I'll say I'd recommend these, and it does stop the kinks. All you have to make sure you do is with the join, you have the template firmly placed over the middle of the track. So there's the join right in the middle there, half there, and pin it down. I would recommend pinning as opposed to gluing. Gluing is a very permanent method, and if you decide to change the track, then you are going to find yourself having to buy new track. It tends to rip the sleepers off. That's pretty much it for the November update. I hope you've got some decent ideas and tips out of what I've been showing you and saying. Just to let you see that the last section of the TMD phase 3 is now in position, ready to be laid. I've got the cork down here. Not glued the cork down here because that's the main line, and the cork will be cut to a shoulder, so I thought it was a lot easier not to glue this bit down, but it will flow that way. There'll be a turnout from the down line across to the top of the incline to allow trains to get access to the lower level, and also another turnout there to allow access to the TMD, so the trains don't have to go in the main line to access the TMD from the lower level. And my target is to get the upper section loop complete by the end of the year. We'll see how it goes. I'm thinking, as I said earlier, to use ply and risers as opposed to these polystyrene ones, as I've tend to find on the other end of the layout where I've got my one fixed in place, round about here the trains just start to struggle, the longer rakes that is, so I might rip that up and start the incline a wee bit earlier, and take it down a lot further to about here, so it's technically flattening it out a little. that's going to be another job of ripping this up and scraping off the glue and stuff. But you know, it's worth getting the track right. But I'll see how it goes. I'll see if it makes any difference at the other end by having a longer incline. If it doesn't, I'll just leave this in place, because the trains do run perfectly fine on it, you know, down the way, and unless it's an HST or a long coal rake with hoppers, they don't tend to struggle. But as for my Hornby Class 91 with the old Ringfield motor, I think I'm wishing in my dreams that it'll make it up that incline, because I just know it won't. Okay, that's it for now. Hope you've enjoyed this. Any comments, please get in touch as always. Cheerio.